Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. And Dynamite tonight, I thought it was a very good show, in my opinion. Really enjoyed Dynamite tonight. Also, got some news on AEW Collision, which I will be getting to in a few minutes. But tonight on Dynamite, we had Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. They ended up taking on Moriarty and Big Bill. Sammy Guevara was in action, and they have taken on Excess Prime. More like Jobber Prime, in my opinion. We also had Toni Storm and Ruby Soho of the Outcasts, the Borecasts, versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Hikaru Shida. We also had a Falls Count Anywhere match. Roderick Strong ended up taking on Chris Jericho. And of course, Adam Cole and the Jericho Appreciation Society were banned from the arena. And in the main event, we saw Jay White versus Ricky Starks. And we also had a word from Don Callis about why he ended up attacking Kenny Omega last week on Dynamite. But overall, Dynamite tonight, very good show it was. So really enjoyed it. But before I get into the review, I mentioned about AEW Collision, and I was going to get into it. So Warner Bros. Discovery had their upfront presentation today at the theater at Madison Square Garden. And it is official. AEW Collision is going to premiere next month on Saturday night, which is great. So it's going to be premiering on June 17th, 8 o'clock on TNT. It's going to be live. It's going to be, 2 hours, just like Dynamite. But very much looking forward to Collision, even though it could be a problem, here and there, because Saturday night you have, a lot of competition on Saturday night. You have, college football when that starts. You may have a MLB game, the UFC, and also when WWE does their premium live events. So it's like, what are you going to choose? If WWE has a premium live event, are you going to watch that or are you going to watch AEW Collision? Me, I would watch the premium live event from WWE, review it, and then watch AEW Collision, maybe the next day. So, but it is official, with AEW Collision. And I like the logo to AEW Collision. It reminds me of, in the vein of the WCW Monday Nitro logo. So it's in that sort of vein. So, but CM Punk, a lot of people, were saying that CM Punk is going to be a part of AEW Collision. And that's the only reason why AEW, made AEW Collision is because, CM Punk, was going to be on AEW Collision. But as it turns out, CM Punk won't be a part of AEW Collision, because he ended up going on his Instagram story. He ended up calling, wrestling fans are just very green. And he ended up, going off on Brian Alvarez. Ace Steel, was supposed to be back in, some form backstage for AEW Collision. But now Ace Steel is not going to be back in some form backstage, and Punk might not be back. So, who knows? Even though CM Punk's name was in the original press release for Dynamite, he was removed. And pretty much, I think that's what Tony Khan was going to announce last week. Because obviously, Tony Khan was like, oh yeah, I have a big announcement that's going to be, announced next week on Dynamite, which was tonight. But we all pretty much knew what it was going to be beforehand, before it was announced today. It was going to be AEW Collision. But yeah, AEW Collision debuting next month, June 17th, 2 hours, 8 o'clock, live. Looking forward to it. But that's all. That's pretty much the news that broke out today during the Warner Bros. Discovery upfronts. But what do you guys think about AEW Collision? Are you guys going to watch it on Saturday nights? Are you going to watch something else? But let me know what you all think about AEW Collision. In the comments down below. Will you watch? Let me know. So now on to the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with the TNT champion, Wardlow. Wardlow made his way down to the ring, and the crowd was chanting for Wardlow. Wardlow got on the mic, and he kept saying that he wants to see Christian Cage follow through on the promises that he made last week. So then he called Christian Cage out to the ring. Christian Cage's music ended up hitting. He came out alongside Luchasaurus, and both Christian and Luchasaurus made their way down to the ring. As soon as Christian Cage got into the ring, he stared Wardlow down. Christian was saying to Wardlow that his time with the TNT Championship is numbered. I think everyone that has held the TNT Championship and their time with that title was numbered. Because we all know how badly booked the TNT Championship is. It's a hot potato title. And just by the TNT Championship being hot potatoed all the time, that makes me not care about any other challenger for the title. So we had Wardlow kept egging Christian on. Wardlow was telling Christian for him to spit in his face. So then Wardlow grabbed Christian by the throat. So he reared back to, do it. So Luchasaurus was there. Wardlow ended up fighting Luchasaurus off. And Wardlow was looking to hit a power bomb on Christian Cage, but Luchasaurus ended up stopping Wardlow. So Christian Cage ended up delivering a low blow to Wardlow. So Christian Cage instructed Luchasaurus to retrieve something from under the ring. So Luchasaurus ended up going under the ring, and he retrieved a ladder. So Christian Cage continued to attack Wardlow, and Christian ended up setting the ladder up in the corner. Luchasaurus ended up choke slamming Wardlow into the ladder, and we had the ladder end up getting brought down. Christian ended up putting exclamation mark by hitting the kill switch on Wardlow. He ended up driving Wardlow's face into the ladder, and the ladder was like broken in half. So officials end up running to check on Wardlow. Christian Cage ended up raising the TNT Championship up. He was standing over Wardlow. Christian then ended up dropping the TNT Championship as him and Luchasaurus end up heading out of the ring. And pretty much that was basically that. So Christian is the next challenger for Wardlow's TNT Championship. But overall, I thought this was a pretty good opening to Dynamite here. Good confrontation between Christian Cage and Wardlow. And Luchasaurus, still being by Christian's side. Pretty good dynamic. as well with that. So, but very good opening to Dynamite. And then we had the first match of the night. Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin teamed up to take on Lee Moriarty and Big Bill of the Firm. And this was a good match here. We had Orange Cassidy and Lee Moriarty starting off the match. And Lee Moriarty ended up getting caught by Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy ended up going for the cover. Lee Moriarty ended up kicking out. So Orange Cassidy ended up getting his hands in his pockets. And he delivered some offense on Lee Moriarty. And then Orange Cassidy ended up hitting Moriarty with a drop kick. Moriarty ended up tagging in Big Bill. And Orange Cassidy ended up tagging in Darby Allin. So Big Bill and Darby Allin went out of here. So Darby Allin ended up getting caught by Big Bill. Big Bill ended up swinging Darby around, and he dropped Darby down to the canvas. Big Bill started taunting Darby, of his size. And we had Big Bill end up slapping Darby in the face. Darby ended up sending Big Bill out of the ring. And Lee Moriarty intercepted a dive attempt. And Orange Cassidy ended up getting the tag. And both men end up getting the dive to the outside on Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. So we had Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin end up delivering, dives to Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. So the crowd really liked that. And then Dynamite went to commercial, during the picture-in-picture. So during the picture-in-picture, we had Big Bill taunting the crowd from what I saw. He was just going like this to the crowd, just flipping them off. So as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Big Bill was in control of the match. He ended up lifting Orange Cassidy up for a delayed vertical suplex, but Darby ended up getting a blind tag, and the ref didn't see the tag from Darby. And the ref ended up telling Darby to get back in the corner. Big Bill then connected with the suplex to Orange Cassidy. Big Bill tagged in Lee Moriarty, and Moriarty and Big Bill ended up double teaming on Orange Cassidy for them to keep Orange Cassidy separated from Darby, from Orange Cassidy not tagging in Darby. So Orange Cassidy ended up shoving Lee Moriarty away. He made the tag to Darby. Darby ended up hitting some offense on both Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. Darby Allin was on fire here. So Big Bill ended up coming back. He ended up hitting a big side slam on Darby Allin. He ended up going for the cover. Darby ended up kicking out. So the crowd was all for Darby here. And Big Bill ended up tagging in Lee Moriarty. But Darby ended up kicking him away. And he ended up making a tag to Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy ended up hitting a DDT on Big Bill. Lee Moriarty ended up getting the drop on Orange Cassidy. And Lee Moriarty ended up locking in a submission hold on Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy ended up countering that into a near fall. And we had Lee Moriarty end up kicking out. Cassidy ended up tagging in Darby. And we had Orange Cassidy and Darby end up wearing Lee Moriarty down. Big Bill ended up rushing in. And he ended up leveling both Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. So Big Bill was looking to go for the suplex on Cassidy. And he ended up going for the Stone Dog Millionaire. And we had it being a setup for a destroyer by Darby Allin. So Lee Moriarty ended up getting dropped. And Orange Cassidy ended up hitting an orange punch on Big Bill. Darby Allin ended up hitting the coffin drop onto Big Bill. And he followed up with a headlock takedown. And we had Darby Allin end up going for the cover. And there you go. Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good match. This was a fun match here. So, very entertaining match it was. And then we had Alex Marvez. Alex Marvez was backstage in the arena's parking lot, and he was going to speak with the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. So Alex Marvez ended up asking Matt and Nick on an update regarding Kenny Omega. So the Bucks were going to give an update, but then we saw the Blackpool Combat Club. We saw Wheeler Yuta and Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli were behind the Young Bucks. So we had the Young Bucks ended up throwing their luggage at the Blackpool Combat Club, and they went at it with them. So we had the Blackpool Combat Club end up getting the best of the Bucks, just taking them down. So Moxley ended up making a statement saying that the Blackpool Combat Club are the only elite in this business. So pretty much that was, basically that. So the Blackpool Combat Club is going after the elite. They went after Kenny Omega, and they took out the Bucks tonight. And then we went to the trainer's room, where Wardlow was shown being tended to. Arn Anderson was there, and Arn Anderson ended up grabbing Wardlow's ice pack, and he threw the ice pack against the wall. Arn Anderson ended up asking Wardlow what he's going to do. So Wardlow ended up answering, and Wardlow ended up challenging Christian Cage to a match at Double or Nothing with the TNT Championship on the line. He was like, "Oh, well, Christian, you like ladders. Let's do this in a ladder match." There you go. At Double or Nothing, Christian Cage versus Wardlow, TNT Championship on the line in a ladder match. So pretty much, looking forward to it, even though everything surrounding the TNT Championship, I don't really care about. TNT Championship, like I said, is booked terribly, and it's being booked like a hot potato title. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Renee Paquette, she was interviewing Orange Cassidy about the recent challenges being raised for his international championship. So Orange Cassidy ended up saying to Renee that he'll fight anyone and everyone come Double or Nothing. So pretty much Orange Cassidy wants to fight, anyone that wants a shot at his international championship. And he ended up telling them to go and tell Tony Khan. So he ended up saying that he will fight them all at Double or Nothing. So there you go. And then we had Sammy Guevara versus Exodus Prime, Jobber Prime. Quick match this was. This was a squash match. We had Sammy Guevara end up hitting the GTH on Exodus Prime. So there you go. Sammy Guevara end up winning the match. Post-match, Guevara got on the mic. Guevara is talking about all the hate that he's gotten and how he plans on proving it all wrong when he wins the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing. So pretty much that was, basically that. Post-match, Sammy Guevara got on the mic. He ended up saying that he remembers the good and bad from his childhood, but it got him here. Guevara ended up admitting that he has made mistakes that people have seen firsthand. He ended up saying that his heart says at Double or Nothing, he will be the new AEW World Champion. So pretty much that was basically what Guevara had to say. So, but overall, squash match it was between him and Exodus Prime, and it was a good little promo from Guevara. So it makes me very excited for the main event at Double or Nothing. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone ended up introducing Jeff Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh. I'm like, who cares? So Jeff Jarrett and his crew headed to the ring. So we had Jeff Jarrett and his group. They only got to the stage. Jay Lethal started to talk smack to Tony Schiavone, and FTR ended up rushing out from behind. So FTR ended up shoving Satnam Singh off the stage, and Satnam Singh ended up going through some tables. So then FTR started brawling, with Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. So, FTR, Harwood, and Wheeler, they end up going up on top. So we had FTR, they end up bringing Jeff Jarrett into the ring. They were beating down on Jarrett. And lo and behold, Jeff Jarrett's wife, Karen Jarrett, showed up, and she ended up low blowing Cash Wheeler, which that allowed Jeff Jarrett to hit the stroke on Dax Harwood. Satnam Singh rushed down to the ring. He was tearing his shirt. So Satnam Singh ended up laying out both Wheeler and Harwood with a choke slam. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal held up the guitars with their names on it. And so both Jarrett and Lethal end up hitting FTR with the guitars to their heads. So we had Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal held up the World Tag Team Championships over FTR, and pretty much that was basically that. But we had Karen Jarrett make her AEW Dynamite debut tonight. And all this happening, do I care? No. I do not care. So then we went backstage. Darby Allin was with Renee Paquette. Darby was talking to Renee about what he's looking to do at Double or Nothing. Then Sammy Guevara ended up interrupting Darby Allin. Sammy Guevara ended up saying that he won't be laying down for MJF, but also won't take it easy on him or Jungle Boy. He kept saying, but whatever happens, someone has to take the AEW World Championship off of MJF. So Guevara and Darby Allin end up bumping knuckles, and pretty much that was basically that. We're looking forward to the Four Pillars match for the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing. It's going to be a good main event. And then we have Ruby Soho and Toni Storm versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Hikaru Shida. And this was a solid women's match here. Even though I don't care about the Outcasts, I don't care about the Borecasts, the NWO ripoff, how they spray paint L's on their opponents. So Hikaru Shida and Ruby Soho were in the ring. Hikaru Shida ended up going off on Ruby Soho. Soho turned her around after a stomp to Hikaru Shida's foot. Soho ended up taking in Toni Storm. Toni ended up taking down Hikaru Shida, but Hikaru Shida ended up getting back up. She ended up making the tag to Britt Baker. Britt Baker ended up dropping Toni Storm, and she ended up going for the cover. Toni Storm ended up getting kicked out. Britt Baker ended up dropping Toni Storm, and she ended up going for the cover, and Toni Storm ended up kicking out. Britt Baker ended up getting distracted by Saraya at ringside, and that allowed Toni Storm to hit a hip attack on Britt Baker, which knocked Britt Baker off the apron. So Toni Storm distracted the ref. Saraya ended up attacking Britt Baker. Toni Storm ended up coming out to bring Britt Baker back into the ring. And then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Toni Storm ended up getting dropped by Britt Baker. So Britt Baker ended up taking in Hikaru Shida, and Toni Storm ended up taking in Ruby Soho. So Hikaru Shida and Ruby Soho went out of here. Hikaru Shida ended up laying in some forearms and some elbow strikes on Ruby Soho. She ended up driving Ruby Soho down to the canvas. Hikaru Shida ended up dropping Toni Storm, and she even striked at Saraya, stepping on the ring apron. So Hikaru Shida brought Ruby Soho back to the ring. She delivered a knee strike, and then Hikaru Shida ended up going for the cover as Ruby Soho ended up kicking out. Toni Storm ended up rushing into the ring, but she was held off by Hikaru Shida, and Hikaru Shida ended up hitting a Falcon Arrow on Ruby Soho, which was good, which was great. So Hikaru Shida ended up going for the cover. Ruby Soho ended up kicking out. So Hikaru Shida tagged in Britt Baker. So Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida ended up double teaming on Ruby Soho, and it led to Britt Baker ended up hitting a Meteora on Ruby Soho. She ended up going for the cover, and Ruby Soho ended up kicking out. So Britt Baker ended up locking in the lockjaw on Soho. Soho ended up reversing out of that, and Toni Storm ended up tagging in. Britt Baker ended up continuing the attack on Ruby Soho. Saraya hopped onto the ring apron. Britt Baker ended up trying to stop Saraya, but she ended up taking spray paint to the face by Ruby Soho, and that led to Toni Storm ended up hitting the Storm Zero to Britt Baker. So Toni Storm ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Ruby Soho and Toni Storm ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a solid women's match here. Happy to see Hikaru Shida back, in the ring and on TV. So, but the Outcasts, still the same old, NWO ripoff, spray paint. So, but overall, solid women's match it was. So then we saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was backstage with Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy ended up telling Renee Paquette that 20 people expressed their interest in challenging him for the International Championship. Orange Cassidy ended up saying that he'll just have to fight them all. And since there's 21 of them in all, he ended up saying that we can make it a blackjack battle royal for the International Championship. He said, unless Renee wants a challenge as well. So Renee ended up assuring to Orange Cassidy that she's fine. And pretty much that was basically that. But there you go. Blackjack Battle Royal for the International Championship at Double or Nothing. So, I mean, it could be, pretty fun. But Orange Cassidy's still going to hold on to the International Championship. And then we saw Tony Khan. Tony Khan ended up talking about the announcement of AEW Collision. He ended up saying that it's premiering on TNT on June 17th. And, it's going to be on Saturday night, 8 o'clock. I mean, obviously, we all knew, when Tony Khan ended up saying, oh, I got a big announcement. And I'll announce it next week. We all knew it was going to be the news of AEW Collision because, like I said earlier, Warner Bros. Discovery had their upfront presentation at the theater at Madison Square Garden today. And that led to, the announcement of AEW Collision. So, but he also announced a tour of Collision with some big dates. So he ended up saying next week on Dynamite, he will confirm where the premiere of AEW Collision is taking place. So my guess is the first AEW Collision show is going to be taking place in Chicago. That's my guess. But here are the dates for AEW Collision. For the premiere, the location is to be announced next week. My guess, like I said, will probably be Chicago. July 8th, they're going to be in Regina. June 24th, they're going to be in Toronto. The 15th of July, June 24th, they're going to be in Toronto. So that's going to be a hot crowd there for Toronto there for Collision. June 29th, they're going to be in Hamilton, Ontario. July 8th, they're going to be in Regina. July 15th, they'll be in Calgary. And on July 22nd, they're going to be at the Prudential Center in Newark. So that's going to be a hot crowd there in Jersey for Collision on July 22nd. Hopefully we get a show here in New York aside from Grand Slam. We'll love to see a AEW Collision show here in New York. Aside from us getting Grand Slam. But nice little tour for AEW Collision. And then we had the Falls Count Anywhere match. Chris Jericho versus Roderick Strong. Of course, Adam Cole, Bebe, and the Jericho Appreciation Society are banned from the arena. And this was a fun, good Falls Count Anywhere match. So we had Roderick Strong, he ended up coming out first. And then Jericho came out, the Ocho, which the crowd was singing along to Judas, of course. Of course, Aubrey Edwards was the referee. She referees, every Chris Jericho match. So Roderick Strong ended up delivering some strikes to Jericho. And he delivered a big chop while Jericho still had his jacket on. Jericho didn't even take off his jacket. He still had his jacket on here. So the jacket at some point came off, and that allowed Jericho to get back at Roderick Strong. So both guys were exchanging chops to each other. Strong ended up delivering a drop kick to Jericho. He ended up going for the cover, and Jericho kicked out. Jericho got back up to his feet, and both guys were exchanging strikes. Jericho ended up sending Strong over the top rope to the outside. Jericho was looking for an aerial attack on Roderick Strong, but Jericho ended up getting dropped on the apron by Strong. Roderick Strong ended up pinning Jericho on the floor outside, and Jericho ended up kicking out. So at this point, Jericho got the better of Strong. He ended up dropping Strong, and he ended up sending Strong into the ring. Jericho then followed up with a forearm and a chop in the corner to Strong. So Jericho ended up going for the code breaker, which got blocked by Roderick Strong, and he ended up getting trapped in the walls of Jericho. So Jericho locked in the walls on Strong. Strong was struggling a bit to make it to the bottom rope, but eventually he got to the bottom rope to break up the walls. And so Dynamite went to commercial. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Strong and Jericho were exchanging strikes. Strong ended up dropping Jericho on the railing because they were in the crowd here. So Strong ended up going for the cover on the steps to Jericho, and Jericho kicked out. Jericho ended up trying to escape, but he ended up getting sent into the barricade by Strong, and both guys ended up heading out to the mezzanine. Fans were watching, they were going crazy, and the match ended up spilling out toward the concession stand and also the merch stand. So we had Jericho end up suplexing Strong through a table, at the mezzanine. So Jericho and Strong ended up heading to a nearby stairwell, and both of them ended up on a ledge. They were on a ledge on the stairwell, and they were exchanging strikes. Strong ended up getting dropped by Jericho, so Jericho ended up going for the cover, to which Strong ended up kicking out. So both guys ended up coming back into the mezzanine. Jericho was taunting the fans, and he ended up grabbing a chair. So we had Strong end up throwing some plastic cutlery at Jericho. So Strong ended up hoping Jericho could have, chill out as the match ended up moving towards the elevator. So Jericho ended up throwing a trash can at Strong. So Jericho ended up taunting the fans some more, and we had the match spill out to the outside of the arena. So Jericho and Strong went outside of the arena. Strong backed off from Jericho, and all we saw was Adam Cole. Adam Cole ended up blindsiding Jericho. So he ended up taking Jericho into a planter to the outside of the arena. They were in like a planted dirt pit, both Jericho and Strong. So Jericho, June 24th, they're going to be in Toronto. So that's going to be a hot crowd there for Toronto there for Collision. June 29th, they're going to be in Hamilton, Ontario. July 8th, they're going to be in Regina. July 15th, they'll be in Calgary. And on July 22nd, they're going to be at the Prudential Center in Newark. So that's going to be a hot crowd there in Jersey for Collision on July 22nd. Hopefully we get a show here in New York aside from Grand Slam. We'll love to see a AEW Collision show here in New York. Aside from, us getting Grand Slam. But nice little tour for AEW Collision. And then we had the Falls Count Anywhere match. Chris Jericho versus Roderick Strong. Of course, Adam Cole, Bebe, and the Jericho Appreciation Society are banned from the arena. And this was a fun, good Falls Count Anywhere match. So we had Roderick Strong, he ended up coming out first. And then Jericho came out, the Ocho, which the crowd was singing along to Judas, of course. Of course, Aubrey Edwards was the referee. She referees, every Chris Jericho match. So Roderick Strong ended up delivering some strikes to Jericho. And he delivered a big chop while Jericho still had his jacket on. Jericho didn't even take off his jacket. He still had his jacket on here. So the jacket at some point came off, and that allowed Jericho to get back at Roderick Strong. So both guys were exchanging chops to each other. Strong ended up delivering a drop kick to Jericho. He ended up going for the cover, and Jericho kicked out. Jericho got back up to his feet, and both guys were exchanging strikes. Jericho ended up sending Strong over the top rope to the outside. Jericho was looking for an aerial attack on Roderick Strong, but Jericho ended up getting dropped on the apron by Strong. Roderick Strong ended up pinning Jericho on the floor outside, and Jericho ended up kicking out. So at this point, Jericho got the better of Strong. He ended up dropping Strong, and he ended up sending Strong into the ring. Jericho then followed up with a forearm and a chop in the corner to Strong. So Jericho ended up going for the code breaker, which got blocked by Roderick Strong, and he ended up getting trapped in the walls of Jericho. So Jericho locked in the walls on Strong. Strong was struggling a bit to make it to the bottom rope, but eventually he got to the bottom rope to break up the walls. And so Dynamite went to commercial. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Strong and Jericho were exchanging strikes. Strong ended up dropping Jericho on the railing because they were in the crowd here. So Strong ended up going for the cover on the steps to Jericho, and Jericho kicked out. Jericho ended up trying to escape, but he ended up getting sent into the barricade by Strong, and both guys ended up heading out to the mezzanine. Fans were watching, they were going crazy, and the match ended up spilling out toward the concession stand and also the merch stand. So we had Jericho end up suplexing Strong through a table, at the mezzanine. So Jericho and Strong ended up heading to a nearby stairwell, and both of them ended up on a ledge. They were on a ledge on the stairwell, and they were exchanging strikes. Strong ended up getting dropped by Jericho, so Jericho ended up going for the cover, to which Strong ended up kicking out. So both guys ended up coming back into the mezzanine. Jericho was taunting the fans, and he ended up grabbing a chair. So we had Strong end up throwing some plastic cutlery at Jericho. So Strong ended up hoping Jericho could have, chill out as the match ended up moving towards the elevator. So Jericho ended up throwing a trash can at Strong. So Jericho ended up taunting the fans some more, and we had the match spill out to the outside of the arena. So Jericho and Strong went outside of the arena. Strong backed off from Jericho, and all we saw was Adam Cole. Adam Cole ended up blindsiding Jericho. So he ended up taking Jericho into a planter to the outside of the arena. They were in like a planted dirt pit, both Jericho and Strong. So Jericho ended up throwing a trash can at Roderick Strong. So after he threw the trash can, he was taunting fans, and Strong and Jericho went out of the arena. The match spilled out to the outside of the arena. So Strong ended up backing off from Jericho, and then we see Adam Cole. Adam Cole ended up blindsiding Jericho. So Jericho and Roderick Strong were fighting in this dirt pit. So Adam Cole ended up hitting the boom on Jericho. And Roderick Strong ended up delivering a knee strike to Jericho. Strong ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Roderick Strong ended up winning this Falls Count Anywhere match. Post-match, Adam Cole stared Jericho down. Roderick Strong ended up celebrating his win. And this was Roderick Strong's in-ring debut in AEW. And what a good debut it was for Roderick Strong here. I mean, Jericho ended up putting over, Roderick Strong here. But overall, very fun, very good Falls Count Anywhere match. I like that it spilled to the outside of the arena, and Adam Cole ended up, giving the help to Roderick Strong and laying out Jericho with the boom. But really liking, this feud where this is going with Adam Cole and Jericho. And then we had Roosh versus Jungle Boy. Good match this was. Jungle Perry. And then we had Roosh versus Jungle Boy. And this was a good match here. Of course, Roosh's brother, Dragon Lee, is in NXT now. But Jungle Boy ended up offering a handshake to Roosh. Roosh ended up kicking Jungle Boy's hand away, and he ended up sending Jungle Boy to the outside. Roosh threw Jungle Boy into the guardrail, and he ended up going into the ring to break the count. Jose, the assistant, dropped a cable that was nearby. It was a green cable. So Roosh ended up slamming Jungle Boy's head against the guardrail, and Roosh ended up bad-mouthing MJF. So Roosh ended up going back to the ring, and he ended up going right back onto attacking Jungle Boy's forehead, and he ended up sending Jungle Boy back into the barricade. So as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Jungle Boy was in control of the match. Jungle Boy ended up catching Roosh with a forearm. Roosh ended up stopping the follow-up clothesline from Jungle Boy, and Roosh ended up hitting some headbutts on Jungle Boy, which were some hard headbutts. And so Roosh followed up the headbutts with a jumping knee strike to Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy came back. He ended up hitting one of a jumping knee strike of his own to Roosh. But Roosh ended up coming back and delivered a thrust kick to Jungle Boy. So Roosh ended up going after Jungle Boy with some punches. And so Roosh and Jungle Boy were trading chops on the ropes. So Jungle Boy ended up hitting a Hurricanrana on Roosh, which was awesome, which looked great. So Jose, the assistant, ended up grabbing Jungle Boy's boot. He ended up stopping Roosh from blindsiding him. So we had Jungle Boy end up locking the snare trap on Roosh. Roosh was struggling to get out of the snare trap, but Roosh managed to get to the bottom rope to break the hold. So the snare trap was broken. So both Jungle Boy and Roosh ended up on the apron. They were exchanging strikes. Roosh ended up dropping Jungle Boy off the apron with a side belly suplex. And that dropped Jungle Boy right onto the floor. Roosh ended up bringing Jungle Boy back to the ring. Roosh ended up going for the cover, to which Jungle Boy ended up kicking out. So Jungle Boy got to his knees, and he ended up hitting Roosh with a right hand. So Roosh started unleashing, hell on Jungle Boy. So we had the ref end up admonishing Roosh from unleashing, a lot of hell on Jungle Boy. It led to Roosh arguing with the ref, and that led for Jungle Boy to roll Roosh up. And there you go. Jungle Boy ended up winning the match. Post-match, Preston Vance and Jose, the assistant, ended up rushing into the ring to attack Jungle Boy. And then Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara ended up coming out. So they ended up clearing the ring of, Preston Vance, Jose, and Roosh. And it led the three pillars of AEW to stare each other down. And pretty much that was basically that. But overall, good match, was here between Roosh and Jungle Boy. And then we had Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was backstage, and she was with MJF. She was talking to MJF about Double or Nothing and the AEW World Championship match. So MJF was asked how it feels about the championship from Renee Paquette. So MJF responded, and he ended up slapping the mic right out of Renee's hand. And then MJF walked off, and that was basically that. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw Toni Storm. So Toni Storm ended up laying out a challenge to Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's World Championship at Double or Nothing. So there you go. We're going to have Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship at Double or Nothing. Even though Jamie Hayter has been taken out, got injured by Toni Storm. Main event, Ricky Starks versus Jay White. Very good match here. Both Starks and White gave it all they got here in the match. So the match started off with Starks ended up rushing at Jay White. So Jay White ended up escaping the ring. He ran back to the ring, and he ended up taking Starks by surprise. Jay White ended up escaping out of the ring, started taunting Starks, and Starks ended up responded by, just punching away at Jay White with some hard strikes. Starks ended up getting Jay White onto the guardrail, and he sent him back in the ring. Starks end up staring down Juice Robinson, who was also out there, who accompanied Jay White. So we had Starks getting caught by surprise with Jay White dropping Starks onto the top rope. So Jay White ended up going for the cover. Starks ended up kicking out. Jay White ended up laying a chop in the corner on Starks, to which he followed up by sending Jay White up and over with a back body drop. Jay White ended up leaving the ring. He ended up catching Starks with a kick. And then we had Starks getting a chop from Jay White, a hard chop. And Jay White ended up dropping Ricky Starks on the apron as Dynamite went to commercial. Then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Starks was in control of the match. He managed to turn the match around on Jay White. He was stomping away at Jay White. And we had Starks end up dropping Jay White down to the canvas. Starks delivered a knee to Jay White's gut. He ended up sending Jay into the corner. Jay White ended up countering a DDT, only to take a suplex from Ricky Starks. So Starks connected with the DDT to Jay White. So Starks ended up going for the cover, and Jay White ended up kicking out. Jay White caught Ricky Starks with a running uppercut, and he followed up with a Uranagi, to which White ended up going for the cover, and Starks kicked out. So we had Jay White. He was looking to go for the Blade Runner, but Starks ended up fighting out of it with some elbow strikes to Jay White. And Jay White ended up taking Ricky Starks over the top rope to the outside. Jay ended up leaving the ring to bring Starks right back into the ring. Starks ended up getting an inside cradle, to which Jay White ended up kicking out. So we had Jay White end up delivering a chop to Ricky Starks, and Starks ended up delivering a swinging neck breaker to Jay White, and then he followed up with a power slam. So Starks ended up going for the cover, to which Jay White kicked out. Starks was looking to go for the Roshambu, but Jay White ended up sliding out, and he ended up rolling Starks up for a near fall. So we had Starks end up going for a Roshambu attempt for a second time, but it got countered because Jay White ended up clawing Starks' eyes. Juice Robinson slid in with it. Juice Robinson then slid in the ring with the chair. Starks ended up using the chair against Juice Robinson. So Starks used the chair on Jay White. He ended up hitting Jay White in the back with a chair, which allowed the ref to call for the bell. So there you go. Jay White ended up winning the match by disqualification. But overall, this was a good match here from Jay White and Ricky Starks. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone ended up introducing Don Callis. Don Callis ended up coming out with no music, but on the Tron, we saw footage from last week where Don Callis ended up turning on Kenny Omega. Don Callis ended up coming down to the ring, got boos from the crowd. Don got on the mic. He ended up saying that he wants to talk about what Kenny did to him. Don ended up saying that he feels that he is the victim in all this. So he ended up talking about all the big moments that Kenny Omega has had and how he was right there with Omega. So Don Callis ended up saying that without him, there is no Kenny Omega. So that brought out Kenny Omega, to which there was security, surrounding the stage and the ramp, for to prevent Kenny Omega from attacking Don Callis. So Kenny Omega came out. He was intercepted by the security and by the Blackpool Combat Club. So we had the Blackpool Combat Club end up being down on Omega. So we had Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson was also out there. So the Blackpool Combat Club ended up attacking Omega as Omega ended up, going after security. So the Blackpool Combat Club ended up heading into the ring. Don Callis left the ring, and that allowed Moxley to get a mic. Moxley ended up saying that this is Omega's final warning to stay down. He ended up saying that the Blackpool Combat Club are what everyone else in this business pretends to be. They are the elite. So the Young Bucks end up coming down to the stage, had weapons in hand. They had a 2x4, and they were figuring out the odds against the Blackpool Combat Club. So Hangman Adam Page ended up coming out to the stage. Hangman Adam Page ended up returning on Dynamite tonight. He aligned with the Bucks and Kenny Omega. Of course, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, were former rivals, former tag team champions. So they ended up coming down and they laid into the Blackpool Combat Club. So Yuta was sent into the ring. Omega ended up hitting Yuta with a trash can lid. And Yuta ended up taking a BT trigger delivered by Matt and Nick Jackson by the Bucks. And then Page ended up laying out Yuta with the buckshot lariat. Yuta then ended up escaping out to the ring to regroup with the Blackpool Combat Club. Hangman Page ended up grabbing the mic. He ended up saying that they are the heart and soul of this business, and that they are the elite. So Hangman Page ended up saying that the elite will see the Blackpool Combat Club at Double or Nothing for anarchy in the arena. So pretty much that was basically how Dynamite went off the air. Overall, I thought this was good, between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite. Again, anarchy in the arena at Double or Nothing. So it should be a good match there between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. So very much looking forward to it. But overall, that was Dynamite tonight. Overall, very good, entertaining show it was. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. There will be no SmackDown or AEW review this Friday. Of course, AEW is going to be on Friday at 6:30. So, I'm not going to review both shows this Friday. I'll be working late, so don't expect a Rampage or SmackDown review on Friday. But anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.